Welcome back to Public Service Reports USA. For today's Positive News Stories segment, we're diving into a truly incredible story of civic duty. It's about this quiet, unbroken chain of service that's been passed down generation to generation for over 150 years. It's a story about how Americans have worked together to make absolutely sure that those who served our country are never, ever forgotten. So, let me just ask you. When you think about this huge effort, to find and document every single veteran's grave out there, who comes to mind? Who do you picture as the hero of that story? I'm willing to bet you're picturing someone kind of like this, right? A modern-day volunteer, smartphone out, using a cool app to snap pictures of headstones. And look, you're not wrong. That is definitely part of the story. But it's only the very last chapter. Our source material puts it in a really interesting way. It says the popular story suffers from chronological myopia. Now, that's a fancy way of saying we're kind of short-sighted about this, we're only looking at what's happening right now, and we're totally missing the bigger picture. The idea that this is all some new digital revolution, it's just not the whole story. Here's the reality, and it's so much cooler. This isn't a revolution, it's a relay race. A 150-year-long relay race of remembrance, where every generation has picked up the baton and carried the mission forward with whatever tools they had at the time. That smartphone app, that's just the newest baton in a very long race. So let's do this. Let's wind the clock back, way back, and meet the original runners, the folks who started this whole thing long before anyone had even dreamed of the internet. Okay, so the starting gun for this race really fires right after the Civil War. It's 1866, and Union veterans get together to form the Grand Army of the Republic, the GAR. For them, this mission was deeply, deeply personal. It was about taking care of their own and making sure their fallen brothers were never forgotten. And pretty soon, other groups like the Sons and Daughters of the American Revolution joined in. This was never just a hobby for them. It was a core part of their civic duty. So how in the world did they do it without computers? Well, they built the very first databases. The GAR posts kept these incredibly detailed, handwritten burial ledgers. The SAR, they designed those iconic bronze grave markers you see. Think of it like a physical real-world data tag. And the DAR? Wow. They launched this massive card indexing project. Seriously, these ledgers and cards, they were the original hard drives and hyperlinks. All right, so you might be thinking, hold on a second. Doesn't the Department of Veterans Affairs take care of all this? And that is a fantastic question. The answer actually shows us exactly why these volunteers are so incredibly important. It all comes down to a critical gap in the official records. Just take a look at this chart. The VA's online database, it's great for tracking veterans buried in national cemeteries. But what about the millions, and I do mean millions, buried in private or town cemeteries? Well, you can see right here, if a family used a private headstone, there's no official online record. And here's the kicker. If a veteran got a government marker before 1997, that record is probably trapped on paper or microfilm somewhere, not online. This huge gap, this is exactly what the volunteers have been working to fill for all these years. And filling that gap is precisely the mission that the next generation of runners took on. But they were armed with a powerful, brand new baton, digital technology. The big technological leap wasn't just about typing up old names and putting them online. It was something called geospatial aggregation. This was pioneered by apps like Billion Graves, and it meant adding precise GPS coordinates to every single record. And that, my friends, is a total game changer. It shifts the data from just knowing who is in a cemetery to knowing exactly where to find them. And the results of this new tech? It was an absolute explosion of data. I mean, just look at this growth. These crowdsourcing apps mobilized thousands of everyday people, and then strategic partnerships brought in huge groups of contributors, adding millions of records in a single year. The pace of this relay race just went into overdrive. And get this new technology isn't just about creating new data. It's about liberating the old data. Think about it. The DAR recently finished digitizing 177,000 of those grave location cards from their 1940s project. Information that was basically trapped in filing cabinets for 80 years is now online for everyone. The work of those first runners is directly empowering the runners of today. How cool is that? This slide really breaks down how this modern partnership works because it's not a competition, it's a team effort. The lineage societies, they bring the genealogical proof, the rigor, the tradition. The digital platforms, they bring easy public access and the power of crowdsourcing. So you see, one side provides the critical verification and the other provides the massive discovery. They need each other. And this isn't just some theory. It's happening in a very real way. The sons of Union veterans of the Civil War, the direct heirs to that original GAR mission, they now officially tell their members to link their historical records to these new digital memorials. The old guard isn't fighting the new tools, they're fully embracing them. So what this all boils down to is that this isn't a story of replacement. It's not about new technology making the old stuff obsolete. Nope. It's a story of evolution, of one continuous mission, passed down through this amazing, unbroken chain of remembrance. This timeline just lays out the evolution of the baton so perfectly. It started with what they called fraternal documentation, the ledgers and the cards. Then came the next handoff, digital transcription for those early websites. And now we're in the era of geospatial aggregation with our phones. 3 different batons, 3 different generations of runners, but one single, unwavering goal. I just love this metaphor from our source material. It says that crediting only the modern app users is like admiring the roof of a beautiful house while completely ignoring the foundation it was built on. So true. The incredible work we see today is only possible because of that century of foundational labor that came before it. And that right there is why this is such a powerful positive news story. It is a brilliant, inspiring example of generational stewardship. It shows us how tradition and technology can come together to just amplify a common, noble cause. It's a 150-year chain of public service built by volunteers, all for the good of the nation. For over 150 years, someone has always been there to pick up that baton of remembrance and keep the race going. And that leaves us with one final, really important question to think about. Who's going to be the next to pick it up?